Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Reason being, I spent my entire life in Mexico. While in Mexico they believe that different. Based on this, the dog is Cesarin, is the Mexican name for both humans and dogs, has widespread renown as a cultural icon respected for his talent in rehabilitation, canines, even the most challenging ones. It washes an incredibly serene aura and a profound philosophical system in global system. In reality, Cesar has aided Omni pet owners on the path to altering their connections with canines in their care. But regardless of his success in his career, my life was gradually going downhill in charge. Cesar endured immense individual betrayals and catastrophic lost a lot of money and quickly hit rock bottom point. He discovered that he was battling with addiction, melancholy, and other mental health issues. He would contemplate suicide. So, how did he come to this point of breaking? The purpose? Did he manage to locate his way back? Hey, how about we find remove to getting up before the season? Cesar, the truth and his falsehoods, the city of Milan. On the road to becoming the not a famous dog whisperer park stroll. It embodied bravery, stability, and an unwavering connection with living things. Cesar possesses an exceptional voyage beginning when he was a young man, merely an unusual aspiration, and a great unexpected challenges to achieving the status of the dog whisperer, well-known celebrity, and he had many memorable experiences since he was embarking on a new life in the American nation. In his 21st year of life, Cesar crossed into California by foot, has zero resources, zero employment opportunities, and zero proficiency in the English language ability whatsoever. His sole possession was a lethal, deeply held belief that his destiny was to collaborate with canines. Renewal in California certainly wasn't your favorite. An adventure in hitchhiking. As time went on, while Cesar napped, he took clerical work when they arrived to hold on. Despite this, he persisted in his innate sense of what's best for living creatures. This was his initial significant progress was made once he began a dog groomer in the area. His skill in soothe even the most hostile of canine populations, him unique in comparison to the majority. Not long after that, exited the building. Soon after, Cesar became considered an expert in the field of rehabilitation canines that would typically be deemed unwilling to be taught. Cesar steered clear of using treats or instructional approaches that zeroed in on behavior. He made advantage of the field of fauna and made use of a friendlier, more active in addition to indications that demonstrate leadership. Given his standing expanded, and with it, his clientele. Just one Jada Pinkett Smith was one of his first backers, Smith Pinkett. In addition to becoming a patient, but also aided with his educational I speak English. She had faith in his abilities and hoped he would follow his heart in ambitions. Her assistance allowed Cesar to was able to expand his network and in the end received some notice in the city of Hollywood. In 2002, his breakthrough came upon publication of an article in People magazine concerned Cesar's collaboration with the director canines belonging to Ridley Scott. The piece was taken up by several television developers, and Cesar quickly found work as an dog whisperer, dog trainer on camera through Cesar Millan. It all started in the year 2004. A huge success for the National Geographic, presenting he was able to help even the most difficult pets by employing a soothing and courageous direction. Cesar's idea was both simple and deep. Canines don't require adoration. It is necessary for their workout, self-control, and subsequently affection. The approaches he took were groundbreaking, had an impact that echoed all over the world. Viewers, in the millions tuned in to observe Cesar's fiery transformation. Fearful and defiant puppies become peaceful, submissive pets. Hearing about him, word got out. Cesar's fame skyrocketed, and the impact he had grew. He proceeded to start Los Angeles' Canine Psychology Center San Fernando Valley, where he collaborated with the most difficult puppies in the world. It was authored a number of bestsellers including His Path to Enlightenment, Cesar's Way Dog Owners that are in search of help. Even though he was successful, Cesar maintained his dedication to the cause. It was started a project called the Cesar Millan PAC by non-profit group committed to responsible pet ownership and animal welfare personal responsibility. How Cesar's efforts display also extended significantly further than the television. A global star, a dog behavior expert and assisted foster stronger connections between individuals and their dogs. The ideal storm, separation, corporate treachery, and financial setbacks. Famous all around the world as Cesar Millan Society as a whole, it appeared to live out all of your wildest fantasies. Renowned for he has an exceptional knack for connecting with help rehabilitate canines, Cesar was widespread praise across the world, notoriety, and financial success empire. But under that covering of accomplishment, Cesar was faced with immense, individual difficulties that might challenge him physically and change his future direction. Given the success of his Cesar Millan and the Dog Whisperer show, Cesar emerged as the linchpin in mental processes. His fresh perspective to the issue of canine rehabilitation appeared like a champion in the estimation of a vast number of people. As a consequence, a plethora of books bargains, worldwide vacations, and the establishment of the Canine Psychology Institute in the City of Angels. Although their engagements were an encouraging first forward, it also signified more to Cesar duties that he must attend to. Running a multifaceted business a period of time as well as a psychological capital expenditure. He is anticipating that achieving a goal on a regular basis constructive shift in addition to the examination, once entering public life began. To Cesar feels the strain. The drive that propelled him to fame appeared to take up his entire being lifetime, so eliminating any opportunity for his private time. Additionally, while the strains, as did the pressures of his job, his matters of the heart started to stray. In his wed Illusion Milan, even if built on a strong alliance in business and friendship, began to crumble in the face of this enormous task. In the ever-changing world of in addition to the incessant requests of his realm, their romance started to break into fragments. On June 10, 2010, the pair got into an argument and a divorce petition was filed by Mrs. Illusion Milan. The divorce was also that was both an educational and a practical challenge, also a monetary one, given that they were mutually dependent on one another in their life, both at home and at work. That was an important turning point for Cesar, who was overcome the obstacles that come with becoming a parent, the parents of their 2 young children, and leading his company in an innovative manner. Julius Caesar's personal problems aside, found themselves in difficult positions within the group of people he trained as an expert. Confining in allies who help him with crucial parts of his company, he ran across situations where those convictions were undermined. While specific details are still being behind closed doors, such treachery is common between famous people and corporations. Throughout the private and business-affiliated chaos, Cesar was once again faced with following yet another heartbreaking setback, the death of Daddy, his cherished pit bull. During 16 over the years, his father had been a trustworthy individual, a business partner in the field of rehabilitative courses, along with a prototype of putting Cesar's idea into practice. Renowned for his gentle nature and composed attitude, my dad was instrumental in assisting Cesar on a regular basis with teaching lessons and acting as adenotes conduct that is harmonious. My dad passed away. By the end of February 2010, Cesar's unfathomable emptiness. He explicitly aired his profound sorrow, saying, "My father struck me severely. Passing happened simultaneously with inconvenient for me." What made this worse decline worsened Cesar's mental health upheaval, directly causing him to incur a length of time spent in deep grief and personal reflection. The meeting point of those circumstances, the breakdown of his marital infractions of the contract in his privileged group of individuals, as well as the unlucky Cesar was left feeling adrift after Daddy's passing, profound loss of direction. He had been quite near was bound together by his responsibilities as a spouse, a respectable figurehead in the canine recovery neighborhood, and father's companion. Taking out those 3 basic principles guided Cesar to in the midst of battling with inquiries regarding direction and purpose. In this age of concerns and struggle was characterized by indications of extreme psychological anguish, the path that ultimately brought Cesar to a reaching the limit, falling victim to the growing burden of his challenges. Cesar embarked on an unsuccessful suicide attempt. Cesar saw the need for transformation and go out on an adventure of discovering oneself and mending through the use of the precise criteria he advocated for in canine therapeutic relief, equilibrium, serenity, and confidence in his own life. Meditating, re-establishing contact with members of his family, and allowing himself that was necessary to grieve at a distance, procedures involved here. Additionally, Cesar discovered fulfillment in his career working with dogs, using his knowledge to delve further, sympathize with and comprehend animal companions, and the people that own them. Taking on a pit bull, is the newest protege, chosen to carry on my father's legacy. It was made possible by this new arrangement, in order for Cesar's mission to advance, paying tribute to Daddy's heritage, while took in the wisdom from his daily topics pertaining to his own voyage. The conflict that Cesar faced throughout the duration of time that was turbulent, was useful in altering his own perspective, to achieve prosperity, and improve personal health. It was emerged from the experience ready to tackle being genuine and comprehending. that actually stable includes both work-related successes and personal fulfillment. Openness regarding Cesar's today highlights the importance of, timely reminder to many of the importance of, perseverance, introspection, and the necessity to ask for help when necessary. At his lowest point, when he tempted suicide and transformed into reliant on drugs, the issues that Cesar had become a source of concern. In 2010, the world-renowned dog whisperer, once again, he was at rock bottom. In spite of his many accomplishments, he had collect, and his estimation of his own succeed. In spite of his own hardships, he was still finding it difficult to grasp the core of that part. When he was divorced and being severed from all kinds of dialogue with his offspring, the just about the worst thing that could have occurred, to tragedy struck when he lost his dog. The dogs were like personal assistants to Cesar, sidekick, and he had remained steadfast throughout for quite a while. He promptly became a loser who he was, attempting to organize himself, and for some while he truly thought whatever he possessed, but his sorrow gradually took hold with him again. Feelings and thoughts trouble this was making him feel was simply intolerable to him. Cesar was aware of himself as the one who excelled at aiding dogs experiencing behavioral issues and achieving a state of equilibrium and calmness. After that, his life started to go in a once again. He felt completely, he seemed to be losing touch with who he was. At that time, he started to question precisely what his life's mission was. Following that, one option would have been to just stop existence. He made an effort to accomplish precisely that. Cesar failed in May of 2010 no longer bear it. The increasing demands at the same time as experiencing sadness, and he was driven over the edge by guilt. And worst case scenario, he started to think, end one's life. At a devastating point in fragility, the adolescent caved and had a pharmaceutical overdose. In the end, I hoped that the medication he took would genuinely demolish the burden of his psychological distress. It didn't take long for he to be taken to the hospital after becoming unconscious health center. He was fortunately brought to. They arrived at the hospital in the nick of time and found a way to revive him. However, none of prevent that situation from escalating into a crucial point in his biography. Located at that instant when those who were near to him, he started to realize how severely it was difficult for him. Regardless, Cesar brought up in public this suicide attempt until late in his professional life. It was informed those around him that he had previously established a reputation for composure in public and control. Consequently, he had a hard time only to confess openly that he was taking on such massive monsters. Thank goodness. Sometime later, he was able to conjure up the fortitude to accomplish that very thing. Thus, he's Cesar Millan, the documentary's release date. True incident in which he discussed the several similar problems. Throughout the documentary, he even admitted to feeling like a total failure throughout that time. It was thought he'd lost all he had, a spouse and a male, hence there was no worthy of one's life. Following Cesar's success in avoid the tragic suicide, he suddenly discovered himself engaged in a struggle with his feelings. The sheer magnitude of it all that he felt the need to medicate in order to dull hurting him. But this was a horrible error on his side as a result of nearly right away. He was hooked. During that time, pharmaceuticals evolved into his way out of the situation. In conclusion, he was spared from handling the going through it all by myself. Medications were meant to assuage his suffering. By that time, the fact that Cesar was famous was irrelevant. In the same way that the man has aided numerous others find inner peace and mastery because he was suddenly tumbling out of control. It was easy to see the difference as while he was assisting others in regaining balance. His mental faculties were deteriorating. Because he was addicted, Cesar quickly fell farther into a pit of misery and disorientation, and he began abusing substances as an avenue for evading his situation, which, to his horror, appeared to be quite awful. The more he resisted, though away from the truth, and delved farther into narcotics, as he increasingly denied feeling of purpose. Presumably, the one who capturing the essence of a patient leader started to experience a complete removed from anything that formerly filled him with satisfaction. In his sat work and in his personal life, he was lost. Throughout his life, this very same individual has during his earthly lifetime, Jesus taught people how to show composure and empathy as you guide. Now, however, he finds himself amidst the mayhem and lack of confidence. He advocated for the cause of attaining harmony by means of comprehension and leadership. Still, he had a hard time using the identical guidelines tune his own effects on the household. An option among what Cesar failed to perceive at this time is that even though he may have thought he was fighting for this cause on his own, he really wasn't. He didn't, the one individual impacted by this awful emotional state. Who knows, Cesar might have felt worthless, because he had endured the loss of his loved ones. Nonetheless, bereaved family had to see his descent into management in the absence of clear instructions for help. It was a horrible sensation for that group. Those who did in fact experience this, he had two sons, Calvin and Andre, who'd observed his deterioration. Both boys observed as the serene and warmth quickly transformed into a state of anxiety. They observed the dynamics between in the end, their parents' attitude changed. In most cases, this is typical in shattered homes. It's possible that parents are overly concerned about, feel blind to the fact that even the little ones are in pain. The reality is typically extremely enthusiastic about keep an eye out for, allowing them to detect just a little bit different. The two sons of Cesar became aware of the change in their family's attitude altered in every way. The things that looked like Amy's once lively house was now brimming with reverberations of silent worries. However, not only did this strain affect the familial unit, all the way down to the extended families was also affected by the stress. The complete previously had a common goal and vision. However, it appeared as though the very essence of their cause was disappearing from sight. When they events that were formerly brimming with merriment and delight were suddenly brimming with tales concerning the health of Cesar, and this subject wasn't exactly light-hearted, very soon started to deteriorate. As well as the psychological burden of getting to see a family member's downward spiral quickly resulted in many relationships that are troubled and feeling powerless. Fortunately, Cesar refrained from spend an indefinite amount of time immersed in a fantastical realm, and he quickly realized the influence of his consequences for his loved ones. Every one of the recent periods of emotional detachment and sleeplessness, shedding light on the agony he was unable to trust with all of your secrets, and before long started to realize that this discomfort was eventually influencing everyone who genuinely meant something to him. At that instant, upon his realization, it took on a heavier shoulders because he was well aware that challenges were the primary factor, that considerable suffering to his loved ones. By that time, the importance of healing extended beyond assisting him in healing his injuries, but it was assisting him in mending the relationships in the company of those he held in high regard. The Cesar might have reached a turning point upon learning that his offspring had eventually grown apart from him. Now that they had afraid of their dad and worried that he may perhaps cause him harm. So they severed ties with his life in a major sense, and being. From that point on, things started in order to sense that he was undeniably suffering. It would be impossible for him to lost forever. Because of this, he stepped back and start thinking about returning to his journey. He considered he has loved ones, including his innocent children, who've to bear witness to his most trying period as he went through life. Amidst his ongoing think about it, he actually woke up phone and finally understood that he was going to start over and deal with his emotional wounds, his connections. At Cesar's knowledge, he was unable to complete the task on his own, and that he could use some assistance in order to complete for this function. To that end, he set out to assistance from experts. Cesar started to swallow treatment in order for him to genuinely face the monsters within. He had to grasp the precise origins of his issues, he had to take action, and he had to determine his strategy for handling these. In the course of his treatment, he was implored him to take his kids to a vacant dialogue. What a fantastic platform, supporting his cause, and as a result, he was competent to articulate his sentiments. In addition, begged for pardon and started the path to recovery. Cesar failed who would prefer to not be recognized, and the acknowledgement he had received. They could seem to be without substance, but these factors that bestowed to him the individual satisfaction he felt. When it comes to alongside the affection shown upon him by his relatives, which appeared to be were going to vanish, it started to seem like he was about to encounter an unfamiliar face in his loved ones. The impetus behind it all was this dread. He had to push himself forward in order to change. On the road to recovery, one must discover remedies for these issues that highlighted on the face of him. Cesar, with the assistance of it was necessary for his therapist to go over the exact building that had paved the way for him to successful time management, stamina, and control. They were extremely crucial for the presentation of his philosophical in the art of dog training. Thus, the sole answer was to use the identical approach to taking charge of his own life. As a result, alongside work with his therapist, they started to develop a regular program that could assist him remain composed and confident way of acting. Cesar soon started to live in a genuine way. Even as he had instructed canine owner-dog coexistence, he embarked on board with all the candor and sincerity that accompanied experiencing ideal life imaginable. His takeaways taught individuals how to coexist peacefully with their canine companions, quickly, became the bedrock upon which his individual recovery. Cesar did a few things. All he needed to do was become an expert in his own in my head. Beyond being an expert in that, he accomplished mastery over his feelings and ideas. Additionally, this to a greatly resembled the lady direction that he consistently displayed showcased his canine abilities. At first, he didn't want to place greater emphasis on introspection and emotional clarity tactics. Cesar placed an emphasis on certain strategies that he was aware were well known as a means of alleviating stress and improve mental health. By centering on cultivating the identical qualities, he typically utilized it in relation to how dogs act, maintaining a steady pace, being patient, and being there. He started to feel better about himself. He also benefited from something else. Throughout this time, he was linked to ecology and zoology. They were identical settings in which he experienced profound comfort. Calm down. Working has always been his passion, among canines and engrossed in outside environments. He was granted health advantages, particularly because research on human-animal interactions has demonstrated in order to alleviate nervousness and lift spirits. As day in and day out, he cared for and trained, Cesar embarked on the creation of a organized and well-directed on a daily basis agenda that he could follow. The design brought him a feeling of fulfillment and additionally drove home to him the significance of being reliable. He spent time with the canines, provided him with unwavering encouragement as well. It was crucial for him to mend his emotional stability, the function of canines in his getting back on foot. The experience of working with dogs restored Cesar's direction in life and enabled him to consider all the bright sides that truly result from a person's level of commitment and giving something attention. While teaching the canines, he also developed a profound familiarity with leadership and enthusiasm. It dawned on him that he could exert greater control over his canine's actions when he composed himself and made additional upbeat vibes. Cesar and the entire globe got educated throughout this time. Between humans and other animals had a great deal on psychological well-being, and this resulted, it seems like a lot of individuals believe in caring for a pet dog. A lot of people started acting repeat the actions they seen Cesar take, and they experienced a profound feeling of security in everyday issues that they had fought to accomplish after all those years. The framework that Cesar possessed worked with him to control his anxiousness and achieve control, but it was also helpful for quite a few people follow suit. It has framework required him to eat, train tending to the canine companions. Beyond this regimen, that had miraculous effects for him. Additionally, Cesar mentioned that the mere existence, the dog served as a powerful reminder that his home should be in thee at this time. What struck him was the consistent without distraction, and they existed independently of any prior regrets in a future that seems bleak anxieties. Cesar quickly started to grow the same frame of mind. The change in viewpoint made a substantial contribution to his tranquil and contented existence. Right now, the majority conducted as far has demonstrated the fact that numerous therapeutic advantages, particularly regarding relating to creatures. The research demonstrate that having a pet as a companion may truly cause stress to diminish, better cardiovascular wellness, and improved mental and emotional health. The one and only, when these creatures are around, ameliorate melancholy and anxiety, while concurrently meeting their needs for solace and that they require as a partner. It has theory served Cesar well, since connections with canines resulted in his own recovery while simultaneously reinforcing his qualified expert philosophical theory. People at large answer back then, all of them were being held. The general population regrettably had town aware of the subject. Having said that, when news of one of his challenges spread, generated a great deal of feedback. A few of these were complaints that essentially preceded Ace in terms of challenging his methodology to recognize his inherent humanity. They perceived as though he had been overly critical of himself and that his actions were only directed towards lessen his pain. This, though, was not the position of Cesar. He was somewhat lenient on his own. He has just recently realized that he had to control his behavior on top of doing what would lead to his demise happy. Cesar was forced to face under the immense stress that accompanied retaining his reputation, while also beginning pursuing a path of self-discovery throughout the world. The news that Cesar made about his deluge of personal challenges stirred up a storm of emotions that reverberated across his worldwide fanbase and every media source. Supporters showed up to voice their shock and dismay. Not even his most devoted followers were aware of the difficulties he was facing, much less the fact that he was fighting to restore his reputation. Along with the outpouring of love for him, many were quick to critique his work. They couldn't understand how he could ever experience such problems. Was he merely trying to earn money off of his teachings, or did he truly believe in them? They started to question his teaching methods and spread the word that others shouldn't follow his lead because of his ethics and lack of effectiveness. A large number of admirers eventually showed out and started to show their support. They started to pray for his complete recovery when they felt sorry for his situation. Cesar overcame every personal challenge he faced by staying true to his professional identity. In the dog training industry, his name was practically a byword for reliability and competence. However, he found it exceedingly challenging to preserve his image and remain composed after his private struggles became public knowledge. While he dealt with his own recuperation, he did his best to seem unconcerned. However, this just served to further complicate matters for him, and it compelled him to reevaluate his position as both a public figure and an individual experiencing significant transformation, the return and fresh viewpoint. Cesar, once he emerged from his despair, recognized he had a responsibility to contribute to society. For this reason, he decided to rediscover his life's meaning. That was the turning point when he started focusing on releasing new books, projects, and businesses. In addition, he devoted his complete attention and expertise to these tasks. The more Cesar worked on each assignment, the more his years of experience taught him to be more mindful. During this time, his philosophy underwent a noticeable shift, revealing that genuine leadership is innate. The audience saw his story progress from one of external domination to one of more internal harmony. As they worked with him in training, they also noticed how well this fit with his emotional intelligence. Cesar became a strong supporter of mental health after surviving such a difficult period. He discovered that reassuring others of their company is among the most effective approaches to assist them. Thus, he started to talk about his experiences of being overwhelmed, unable to keep up, and ultimately feeling worthless and empty. 2. Everyone dealing with physical or mental illness, his story is an inspiration. The fortitude to seek out treatment, counseling, and so on was bolstered by it. His own brand quickly became a worldwide refuge for those in need, and he was able to assist many. Cesar learned the value of holistic wellness on his trip. Are you in agreement? Was this series of circumstances a watershed moment or only a stepping stone on a longer path? Could it be that he grew as a mentor and trainer as a result of his trials? Post a comment telling us what you think. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you found this video entertaining.